Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show. And woohoo, I'm Loretta Brown. And today I have the amazing Nathan helping me with the show.
Good morning, Loretta. Pleasure to be here with you.
You have such a great talking voice. It's
Sounds like
perfect.
Benny and I got into the right industry.
I know. Were you guys like that as little kids? Did you walk around and go, "Good morning, Mom, where's my cereal?"
I can't say I was really doing that, but I was listening to the radio a lot, in the good old
Uh-huh.
days when you had the dial radio and like the little needle that goes back and forth. None of that exists anymore.
I know, I love that. It's kind of funny. I don't know that I ever thought about being on the radio, but I have a dear friend who's a channeler, and he told me one time, he said, you have the gift of audience. And I go, the gift of audience? He goes, yeah, you just need to be on stage. And it's true. Like I just have to be the one talking. So I don't mean it, I don't mean it bad. I just
No, no, no.
yeah, that's the way it is. Anyway, everybody, welcome to the show. And just a little heads up, I did have a wonderful guest scheduled for today, Betsy Chassis, and we're having some technical difficulties. So we may be able to get her on the show and we might not. And in the meantime, guess what? Big surprise. We're going to open up the lines and you're going to be able to call in today and get an answer to a question, a burning question. It will be just me giving you answers from the guides and angels. And you might have some things that are really on your mind. We certainly do have a lot going on. But if you want to call into the show today, anytime during this next hour, I'm going to give you the numbers and I might give them to you again a little bit later, but I just wanted to start the show with it. So the numbers here are 425-373-5527 or 1-800-298-5569. And if you call into the show, have a question ready. A lot of times people will say, well, what do my guides and angels have to say to me, Loretta? And I'm like, they love you. You're doing a good job. So let's try to bring it in a little bit more specifically if we can. And in the meantime, also, I'm going to give my astrology report. And welcome to July. July, a month of transition and energetic challenges. And as I mentioned last week, we left June on the tail end of that emotional Cancer new moon, which was conjunct Black Moon Lilith, which represents the divine feminine flame that burns within all of us, the rising of feminine consciousness out of repression and into a state of fullness. Now, as we all know, as we look out across the world, the events of our life seem very contradictory to that statement. Because what I said was the rising of the feminine consciousness out of repression and into a state of fullness. And there's all kinds of things going on in the world. But I want you to know that as a healer for the last 27 years, and even before that, and I think all of you probably can tap into this too, sometimes a wound has to be cut open and it has to drain out in order for the healing to really take place. And the other thing is that healing always starts deep within us and works its way out to the outside. So hang in there, all of my beautiful star seeds, all my beautiful souls. I always know that my mission here is to help lift people up and to help you in every way that I can. Great. Okay. And so astrology shows us that many things are going to unfold. Remember that Mars will be in Aries from June 26th to August 10th, which brings innovative but aggressive energy that could erupt into violence if we don't stay above it. So, astrology is the cosmic weather. And when I say that Mars is going to be in Aries, that's its home place. Mars is a planet of, energy. Sometimes it's the planet of war or aggression. But when it's in Aries, it's going to be fiery. It's going to want to do things. It's going to want to stand up and maybe rebel, right? So we're being called to go into the higher form of ourselves and not fall into those things. So as we stepped into July, we received a burst of high frequency energy from the Sirius Portal, which extends in today. And what is that Sirius Portal? Ancient astrologers called Sirius our spiritual sun, as it was believed to be a portal to the heavens and can help us balance and harmonize our soul and our body. And many people will receive downloads during this portal about that path forward. Sirius is believed to be the home to an advanced alien race. And if you feel your starseed origins are from Sirius, this can be a power time for you to reconnect to your Sirian gifts. And with the high frequencies coming in from our spiritual sun, Sirius, here are a few of the symptoms you might be feeling. Have you been feeling hot inside your body? And I don't mean because of like menopause or something, right? Maybe, right? Maybe like burning up. Have you had hot skin? Just all of a sudden your skin is really hot. How about digestive issues with cramps, or just digestion is just off? I find myself hungry and then I can't figure out what to eat. And if I eat anything, it's like, oh, I don't like that, right? A sore throat, ringing in the ears. And by the way, this quite often happens when people are receiving messages or there's something going on with them where they're all of a sudden one ear will start ringing, or they hear these really high frequency things. And so that can be a sign of things going on with you. Pressure in the sinuses or the jaws, sweating or being cold, or freezing in a matter of minutes, like your body temperature is really fluctuating. Sore eyes, itchy skin, not being able to stand bright light, sleep during the day. And all this is pretty normal right now with all the high frequency energy coming in, as our physical bodies are not used to such high energy and need to adapt to it first. So the energy is really powerful for several days here. It's going to amp up as we get closer to the 7/7 portal, which by the way is today. And I'm so glad I've got my guest on the show today on the 7/7 portal. So what can we do to get through this? Well, the best thing is to keep hydrated, take it easy, ground yourself. And the easiest way to ground and rest the nervous system is to stand barefoot on the grass or the sand or the earth or the rocks or any natural surface. So close your eyes and breathe calmly and deeply. And in fact, because my wonderful guest I see has arrived on the Sirius Portal, she flew down in a ray of light. Hi, Betsy. And
Hi, I just noticed that my internet was being wonky, so I thought I would plug into my internet while you were saying all that amazing stuff. So that's what I was trying to fix.
I love it. It's perfect. It's perfect. So all of us can breathe into our hearts. We're going to breathe in and connect through our hearts, right? Because that's the best way to do it. And just exhale and breathe a little bit. The heart math people, and of course all great spiritual people will tell you to go through the heart center. And if we breathe into our hearts and offer a connection through the heart, through the gamma waves of the heart, we can go into what is called heart coherence. And I think we should all do this because it helps us bypass our egos and our personalities, and we enter into some sort of space with each other. So anyway, everybody, thanks for your patience. I'm going to bring my beautiful guest on today. I'm so excited for this because, you know, Betsy, this is right up my healing alley, right? So my guest today is Betsy Chassis, right? She's an award-winning filmmaker, a best-selling author, a change maker, a mom, a troublemaker. Yep. She's best known as the co-writer, director, and producer of the hit film, What the Bleep Do We Know? Betsy Chassis is a producer and director of Bliss Up Now's Energy, the Ultimate Healer, a 5-part docuseries exploring, ta-da, energy healing. I love this project like so much. And she's also produced the award-winning Song of the New Earth with Tom Kenyon, right? Pregnant in America, Radical Dating, and The Empty Womb. She has authored multiple books, including Killing Buddha, the documentary filmmaking masterclass, Tipping Sacred Cows, and What the Bleep Do We Know? Discovering the Endless Possibilities to Altering Your Everyday Reality. And she's currently working on the Galileo Project, which also sounds fascinating, and Killing Buddha. I'm so happy to have you on the show, Betsy. Beautiful. Mwah, to you. Yes.
I was just at Heart Math, by the way, like literally a month ago. So for the Galileo Project.
Oh, that's fascinating. It's really, really good. So yeah, wow, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. I just want to jump into the deep end of the pool with you, right?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with you. I want everyone to know that I actually did a show with Betsy. Oh gosh, was it last year, the year before? I honestly have lost track of time. I don't know what's happening on planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
But
hold on.
Yeah, but it's a wonderful show, and people can find it in the archives, right? And at the yeah, all over the place. So anyway, very briefly, kind of introduce yourself. Tell people how'd you go from zombie strippers to spirituality in three sentences or less.
How does anybody go from where we were to where we are?
Yeah, exactly.
We're all on this life journey, and I apologize. I'm having a lot of technical issues today, so my headphones won't turn on. My internet is being wonky, so please forgive that we are like in nature and there are things around us. So we're gonna roll with the planet as we go, right? Gosh, it was a happy accident, if there are such things as happy accidents. I was a filmmaker. I was hired to make what was called sacred science, which turned into What the Bleep Do We Know. I didn't even know how to spell quantum physics. The closest I ever got to manifestation was what kind of shoes I was going to buy. That's sort of where it landed. I really do think, looking back now, that there was clearly my father, instilled in me a lot of curiosity and questioning about what this reality that we exist in is. And so I think that there was that little bug in my bonnet, my bee in my bonnet, and the bleep came along, and it just just was like it throws you into once you step on the path, you're in for a journey. I mean, I think you're in for a journey because I think the moment you step out of the vagina, you're stepping on the path. But once you realize, like, oh, there's a potential pathway here, it takes you on quite an adventure.
Yeah. I actually love your story of how you got to where you are. And I think it makes you, in my opinion, a very real person. And I think it comes through in the beautiful work that you do, which to me is just reachable, tangible, touchable. It's like we're all at the living level of life here, right? We're muddling through and
figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said something, we were looking at what's going on in this reality and the chaos and the intensity, right, of it all. And they had said, well, I've risen above all that. I'm not in the rat race. And I was like, well, I don't think, if we're still here, we're still in it. We might have better tools and strategies to operate in this reality, but we're always a student, and we're all, if we're in a maze, we might have found a new section of the maze to go through that maybe has a little less shock and awe to it, but but we certainly are all in the maze, right?
Right, yeah.
And we can handle things better, and I think I'm much more grounded, even in what's going on in the world right now. I'm much more grounded, and I do think that my purpose is to make this information really easy and understandable and accessible to as many people as possible, to not operate from this I'm up here and I'm gonna, we got to make it simple for people, because if we're really going to shift collective consciousness in this paradigm, then a lot of people have to get it.
Yes. Yeah. And you do that so well. I watched your 5-part documentary, The Ultimate Energy, The Ultimate Healer. And I'm just going to say this, I mean, I've been running Reiki Oasis for 27 years, been doing healing work and channeling and all that stuff, right? So having some sort of a series out there that actually makes it so approachable, I am so grateful to you. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm probably going to have everybody watch it. Just watch it so that you understand a little bit better about what's going on. I often have people, like, because I teach classes and people will go, how do you do what you do? And I'm like, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. I was born this way, right? But you go into so much wonderful information, and you beautifully weave together natural ability with scientific. So I want you to talk about your series. What is it that inspired you to do it? And just let's just dive into it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, because of the belief, and I didn't realize this until much later in life, I'm a bit of a science geek. And I actually, for me personally, really like, I'm less inclined I mean, I'm certainly more inclined now, but way back when, I needed some science. I needed some grounding. I needed some, how does that work? I'm a how does that work kind of person. And there are a lot of people out there in the world. There are a lot of people that just know with their intuition, oh, this works, or, this crystal, or whatever it is you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. I needed some science. I needed to understand it. That's just my nature. I'm always curious about that. So Aram Saeed, who's the host, and I had sort of like talked about this one day, and then sort of right as the middle of the pandemic, we just said, let's do it. And the thing about the series that was important for me was that I wanted people to understand the science behind energy healing, especially because in the midst of this pandemic, there became a big schism in this, everybody became against mainstream science and all that stuff, right? Yep. I'm actually very grounded in science. And I thought, we need to get back down to the basics of how these things work. And I'm not a big fan of big pharma, but I'm not against Western medicine. And most of the energy healers that I speak to say the same thing. They're like, no, we need to work together. Yeah. There's beauty and power in this more holistic approach. Mm-hmm. And so I began to explore what is the science behind energy healing. And that's basically, if you go through the episodes, the first episode really kind of grounds everybody in, okay, here's what energy is, here's how energy works. And then we take people on a journey through the next 4 episodes, meeting different people. We follow people as they're going through an energy healing process. And then we also meet people that have had pretty miraculous healings. Mm-hmm. So I want people to see that you can get all the way up to, we have a woman that literally regenerated her liver, all the way to somebody was really suffering from arm pain. And so so that it wasn't just this scientific nerdy, oh, here's how quantum, blah, blah, blah. It was also it's a very experiential series. You get to watch what people do,
Yeah, thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome. But it's cool because people can watch it from any angle, you can see with your own eyes what's happening. We show x-rays, we show before and afters, but you can also learn like, oh, there's this thing. It's called the Schumann Resonance. You were talking about a heart math, right? I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing when you realize like how, like this idea, we're all connected, right? It sounds like this sort of woo-woo, oh, spiritual thing. It's like literally true. Like scientifically, we're all connected. That's like fact. And so you can show that to people and they see it with like, wow, that's true. It really does change the way people start to behave and the way they start to feel. And that's what we got to start doing on this planet. We are in a massive toxic individualistic perspective. We need to get away from the me and into the we. And that's why one of the reasons that I did this series, because when you realize, oh, you and I are connected, like there's the waves, there's the energy and frequency waves. Here's how we are. There's our bubble. Look at us. We're meshed. It's suddenly that we becomes very important.
Yeah, I love that. Also this idea that like in your series, and of course I know about this, you know about this, because we did it when we joined our hearts a moment ago with everybody listening, right? But there is no time, space, and distance. Right. It's just an illusion. Yeah. So somebody in wherever, the UK, can work on somebody in Australia, and you can watch in real time the effect.
Yeah, we did that. We had somebody in the UK and somebody in the US, and we watched that happen. Because when you understand that this is all an illusion, and it's and it's interesting because I'm doing this new series called the Galileo Project, where I'm interviewing scientists around the world who have made amazing discoveries that would radically shift the way we perceive, we interact with reality, but have been sort of like, just like Galileo. Maybe they weren't imprisoned in a dungeon, but they certainly were shoved off to the side, right? So all these different scientists. That's why I was at HeartMath. It's a great example of somebody they've done some amazing work. And while they're very well respected, they're not really considered mainstream, right? Which they should be, you know? So it's interesting when you realize that it's not to take away from our reality and our experience. It's to enhance it. It's to really give yourself tools to go, wow, why am I having this arm pain? I mean, for instance, the girl Wendy, she's a real person.
She is a character.
She's a character. She's a great person. She's one of my greatest friends. You know, her arm pain was so related to something that was going on in her life. Yeah. Right. And for her to heal that wound and begin to open up that to heal that, healing this, you know, Western medicine's not going to do that for you. No. Right. No. And there are times, you know, I did a teenage radio show yesterday. It was so fun. And the teenagers were asking me about, you know, well, is, you know, doctor's bad? And I said, no, listen, my daughter broke her arm. I took her to the doctor. You know, like, I'm not going to reset my kid's arm. That's just not going to happen, right? Right? But did I give her energy healing along the way? Did I help her release some of the pain that was going on while she was on the way to the hospital? You betcha I did. You know, did I help her so that we didn't have to pump her up with pain medications? You know, there's they've actually started to do studies. People that are going to go under anesthesia, who get Reiki while it's happening require less medication. Imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah. A few years back, I had a surgeon from the Swedish Medical Center who sent me clients, and we were doing some work on Dr. Scribner's Unlearn Your Pain concept, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would do Reiki with them, right? If they were open-minded, I would do it before surgery and then after surgery. And he documented somewhere along the line that when they received Reiki ahead of time, they required less anesthesia and their recovery time was faster.
Exactly. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's a beautiful example of Western medicine and our ancient healing traditions working together for the benefit of the patient. Yeah. You know, if you need less medication, it costs less. It's less harm to your body. Mm-hmm. There's just so many benefits from it. Yeah. So that's what this series is. That's the purpose of the series. It's so funny. I have a really good friend, good Christian man, but he's still my friend. But he's a good Christian guy. He was about to go have knee surgery, and he calls me up and he says, "So, what's that thing again I should get?" And I said, "It's called Reiki." And he said, "Okay." And he said, "Where do I get one of those?" It was very
That's sweet. That's really sweet and cute. I love it.
I said, "Well, ask your hospital, because a lot of hospitals have Reiki." And he calls me back. He's like, "They do. They have a Reiki person. And I've set up to have Reiki before I go in for my knee surgery." Yep. And so, you know, if we can start reaching people like that, imagine the kind of shift we can make in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I so agree with you. It needs to be a part. My concept is it needs to be, we need to teach it to kids. Children can do this, right? Oh, yeah. And so when it becomes an active, integral part of our life, then we also don't get so stuck in the idea that I'm just my body, right? Like my body hurts. And this is kind of my whole idea on Western and Eastern, right? Western medicine will go, oh, you're a liver. We got to treat the liver. And Eastern medicine will say we need to take the entire being into consideration, because like you said, it might be some underlying emotional conflict. It could be ancestral. Like it's imprinted into the energy field in some manner.
We talk about epigenetics in the series. You know, we have a wonderful woman, by the way. I'm in love with this woman. Her name is Judy Wilkins Smith. I don't know if you've had her on your show, but you should totally have her.
I haven't, but I'm writing it down.
She has a new book coming out, and like her work blows my mind, on a whole, like it's hard for us to have our minds blown, right? Because we've been doing this for so long. We're kind of like, whatever. But, you know, she brought in a piece what she brings into this puzzle is a deeper understanding, again, about the science. So we've heard about ancestral healing, right? We've heard about ancestral trauma, right? There have been studies, we talk about this in the series, children of Holocaust survivors, generations later from the potato famine. So they've done these amazing studies. And now what Judy talks about in the series a little bit, and what she talks about in her book is how we can look at all of our our ancestors and our history, not just our physical DNA, but our emotional DNA. And now we can take that into consideration for how we're looking at our health and well-being. We can understand, because for me, again, it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. When I understand something, when I go, oh, this is why I always do this thing before I open the door, or, it's coming from here. For me, it makes it easier to unravel it or heal it or work through it.
I agree with you. I so agree with you. So I'm thinking while you're talking how appropriate. I've had a lot of people on my show lately, and we've been talking about ancestral healing and epigenetics, everything that you just said. And I just want to say thank you again for making this so approachable, because it's really true. And I was giggling when you were talking earlier. I do get these quantum brainiacs on here that I wish I could understand what they were talking about. Right. I'm a right brain girl. And
right.
I love them dearly, thank them so much. But we are this merging of science and spirituality, to me, is happening and really must happen in order for us to evolve into what we're truly meant to be.
But yeah. I know you're going to take a break, but as you go into break, here's a great quote by Fritjof Capra, who said, "Science doesn't need spirituality. Spirituality doesn't need science. Man needs both."
Ah, beautifully said. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with that, my wonderful guest, I love her dearly, Betsy Chassis. I don't know, last time you were on, I got all excited too. It's probably your energy, but maybe, I don't know, it was that past life. Don't tell people. I'm so sorry. Anyway, and we're going to take a little station break. Please don't go away, because when we come back, we're going to talk more about Betsy Chassis' new, I don't know what you want to call it, 5-part documentary series called Energy, the Ultimate Healer. And yeah, we are having fun, and I hope you are too. And we will be right back.
Of the Eastern Bay, giving thanks to the first
protectors. I'm sorry that I was late.
No problem.
Energy of their ancient prayers.
I don't know what.
Did you know that Reiki healing can be done at a distance? It's true. So let Reiki Oasis focus powerful energy to help relieve your.
Just trying to get to the birds.
Yeah, no problem at all. I was filling in, and I was sitting there going, well, it is what it is. I can talk.
Yeah, no. I was just running around. I didn't even get a chance. I got up a little late this morning doing some stuff, and then I don't know what they're doing, some construction. So sometimes the internet here just comes and goes, and it wasn't stable, and then my phone was ringing, and I thought it was. Do you know those phone numbers that call you and say, we want to talk to you about your extended warranty?
Yeah.
I didn't answer the phone because it looked like one of those phone numbers.
All right, we're going to be coming back shortly.
Okay, thanks, Nathan.
So anyway, when you called back the third time.
Talk 1150 anywhere you go.
So many ways to listen. Alternative Talk 1150, here to uplift your day.
I've been looking for a deep connection, and yeah, that's what I found. This island shares the lessons on sacred ground.
Woohoo! Thank you, Nathan, for that great music. And apparently I'm in a music listening day, so that's just the way it is. I'm a musician, Betsy. My whole lifetime I came out with a piano in my mouth. That's what happens. That's why my mouth is so big. Anyway, welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show, and I am Loretta Brown. And I want to remind everybody, these shows are archived. You can download them and listen to them anytime. You can find them at the KKNW 1150 AM archives, and we're also on iTunes, Podcast One, Spotify, and I don't know, we're actually all over the place. So, and live on YouTube right now, 1150 KKNW Live YouTube. So you can find out more about me at ReikiOasis.com. And my wonderful guest today, Betsy Chassis, my soul sister from another planet. Anyway, we're talking about her 5-part docuseries, Energy, the Ultimate Healer, and I love this topic so much. We're talking a little bit about epigenetics before the break, but I want to talk a little bit also. You bring out in your 5-part series all kinds of wonderful things. Talk a little bit about Carillion Photography.
Wow. Okay. So basically, you asked a hard question. No one's asked me about that. So basically what they figured out is there's ways in which you can photograph, like you have a picture of a flower or something, you can see the energy fields around it. An interesting thing that I learned, an interesting fact that I learned was that when you go get an MRI or an X-ray, they actually photograph they don't like to call it, science doesn't like to call it auras. That's a woo-woo word.
Yeah.
Scientists call it biofield, but it's literally the same thing. But leave it. Everybody has to have a word, right? So, like everyone's got to have a word for God. I just call it Bob. The biofield. So they can actually photograph your biofield. And one of the things that was really cool was there's a woman named Dr. Ann Baldwin out of the University of Arizona, and she has a device called the BioWell. So basically, a lot of energy healing also ties in with Chinese medicine and the meridians and all that ancient stuff that now mainstream science says we don't have any scientific research to validate that. And you're like, anyway. So what happens is your fingers are actually attached to a meridian and an organ system in your body. So she has this really cool machine where you put your fingers in, and so your fingers are shooting off little electrons and protons, right? We're literally projectiling electrons and protons all over the place, off our body. So she does this measurement, right? And then she gets a picture of your biofield. And the thing that's interesting about a biofield is it's supposed to be solid. There's not supposed to be any cracks in the system, right? If you start thinking about some of the sayings we've had for centuries, all of the stuff starts to make sense to you. Cracks in the system, right? So she did mine. And it's interesting because I had just been to the doctor and the doctor had said to me, oh, your thyroid's way out of whack. We're going to put you on this medication for the rest of your life. And I was like, give me a couple of weeks on that one. And I went to my Chinese herbalist and he gave me a bunch of herbs to take, which I was doing. So when the picture comes out, there's a crack in my biofield pointing directly to my thyroid. And it's not a ginormous crack. Sometimes they could be, but it's a crack. And she goes, looks like you're having a little issue with your thyroid. Now, I never said anything to her about my thyroid. So she says, well, let's see what happens. So she did a 10-minute Reiki session just on my thyroid. We go back, stick the fingers in the thing, do it again. Crack is gone.
Yeah.
And I went back to my doctor and he said, which is what every mainstream doctor will say, it's either we must have had a false positive or maybe the test was wrong because there's nothing wrong with your thyroid. And I thought to myself, before he figured out it was my thyroid, I got poked with like 20 needles. I probably gave tons of blood. I'm standing with one arm here. I'm like every possible test you could imagine. I mean, thousands of dollars worth of tests probably to figure out my thyroid was messed up, right? This test took 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I just think to myself, imagine the radical shift in the medical industry.
Yes.
If they simply looked at this test and said, wow, that's a diagnostic tool that would radically shift my practice and my ability to help my patients.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
And it's all based on the original idea of Carillion Photography, which is that you can take photographs of, you see people doing the aura photography. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's just way more high tech because we're in a very techie world now. So it's very much more high tech, but it's amazing because what happens is whatever system is having issues in your meridian will shoot less protons and electrons. It'll be weaker.
Yep.
It's a weaker system, hence the breaking.
Yeah. I love that so much because it validates what natural healers do at some level. Like they'll sense whatever that is, whether they see it or feel it or know it, or they're just drawn to it in some fashion.
Right, because it's not, I mean, they use the fingers. Those protons and electrons, an energetic field isn't just coming from your fingers, it's all over your body. So when somebody's doing a hands-on or even a reading from afar, that's what they're seeing. They're going, oh, I feel like the right shoulder has got something in there. What's going on? Because they're seeing the breaks, the cracks in the system, or however you want to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. So that's what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, because I love how you bring what I call the natural ability of the healer into this and combining this technology. And also, I'm just going to say this, anybody can learn Reiki or other healing modality. Anybody can do it, right?
Well, yeah, and that's an important tool. Like one of the other reasons that I did want to make this series was because, Loretta, as you know, there's a lot of amazing healers, and there's a lot of people out there that are doing things that are just not safe, that aren't right. And I wanted to give the viewer some tools and some knowledge and information, because that's power, right? To be able to make the right choices for themselves. And one of the most important ways in which you can determine, first of all, the easiest way to determine if an energy worker is the right one for you is to check in with your heart and say, does this feel good to me? But another thing to know in terms of language is if an energy healer says to you, I'm going to heal you, or I'm going to do this for you, that's not how energy healing works.
That's right.
All an energy healer is doing is supporting you into getting in the right frequency so that your body can do what it's naturally designed to do. When I was on the phone with the teenagers yesterday, I said to them, have you ever cut your finger and then watched the skin heal? That's your body regenerating. Like if this idea that our body can regenerate was like crazy to you, how do you think your skin heals from a cut? It's the same thing,
So I want to talk a little bit about the Schumann resonance and the alpha brainwave state.
Okay. Yeah.
So to explain to people a little bit better what that is, and of course, I watch the Schumann resonance all the time. It's been crazy lately, like, right?
Well, because we're crazy right now. We're all
we are crazy. Yeah.
I might go off a little topic here, but the thing, I did an interview for this new Galileo series, and I was talking to a gentleman from the Planetary Health Alliance out of Harvard, and they've been doing studies showing that as the planet gets sicker, humans are getting sicker, right? And it's like, duh, because we're energetically connected, right? And so that's again, like a real world example, because we can talk about the alpha waves and the Schumann resonance, and it feels sort of like it's like this weird form. It's sort of like CERN and all the quirky quarkers they keep finding. Like, what the hell does this mean to me? Like, I don't care if there's an anti-quark and type of double quark and type of tetraquark. Like, what does it really? It makes no sense, right? So when you realize that there's this frequency of the planet and there's the frequency of us, and when we are in coherence, all things are good. Like, that kind of sounds cool in theory, but when you look at the data over the last 50 to 100 years, and you realize as the planet is, the sicker the planet correlates directly with the lack of health and well-being of the humans, and it's in tandem. That's a real world example of how we are connected. And what happens when you meditate, and it doesn't have to, this is the other thing I want people to know, like, meditating doesn't mean that you sit for 17 hours in a cave and, shave your head and wear a special robe. And, I meditate every morning, and I meditate multiple times a day. It's just what you did. It's closing your eyes and connecting with your heart and your breath. And then what you're doing is you're reconnecting into that harmonious alpha frequency with the earth and your surroundings. And you're getting back into harmony. And when you do that consistently, science will show you have better health, you have better digestion, you have better everything. I mean, like, literally, it's like a big plane getting over, and I'm sorry again. But literally what they've shown is like stress. Wow. Stress is the number one cause of disease in the world.
Yes.
And it can be radically shifted. it's not, I'm not going to sit here and tell people I can take away all the pain and suffering in your life, because that's not going to happen.
Mm-mm.
But what simple meditation can do is give you the wherewithal energetically to face those issues in a way that's not going to harm your body. That's all it'll do. And it's not magic, it's science.
Yeah. Wow, there's so much I could say there, because your comment, stress is the cause of all, actually it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And people all the time go, oh God, I'm so stressed. And I'm like, you've got to stop.
Yeah.
Like, just stop. And I look at meditation or centering or grounding or whatever you want to call that, right? It's just stop.
Yeah.
You go, and just stop a moment and come into yourself and allow yourself to catch up to it and activate whatever that is on the inside of you. This idea of the alpha brainwave pattern, right? Like, I actually know exactly what you're talking about. Like, the ability to be able to just slow down is what I call it. If you slow down, you can tune into everything.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, I don't know where this came from, but even, it's funny, I was a line producer for a good long time, you know, and that means you run the whole movie set. And I was doing, you know, independent films and bigger films. And this is way before the bleep. And, you know, chaos would ensue. I remember one time there was this ginormous fire on our set, and we were up in the mountains in Angeles National Forest, and the forest caught on fire, and we were up there and we had to be evacuated. And literally the set where we were filming was probably about to burn down, which is, you know, catastrophic when you're making a movie, because you kind of, you know, need the set, and we'd already been filming this. So it was like a whole thing was happening. And I remember I just said, okay, we're just going to leave. And I took a deep breath, and I got, by the time I just remained really calm and took a lot of breaths. By the time I got to the bottom of the hill, so many solutions to the problem. I hadn't even tried to solve the problem. It wasn't even like, how can I solve this problem? I just said, okay, it just boom. Oh, here's what we can do. And here's what we can do. And here's what we can do. And that's part of the skill set we learn when we start just slowing down, is we just start having an extra set of ears and eyes that offer to us the solutions to the problems that we're facing. And we don't have to push it and force it and like put our body through hell to get it. You know, it's a powerful tool.
Actually, it's so powerful. I'm thinking, you know, our mind helps create that reality, right? Like, so, and also because so many people have trouble just taking a breath and being present. Right. Like they're like, oh my God, 85,000 terrible things are happening. And they're not actually happening. You're imagining that they might happen, right? Or it's that thing that happened yesterday, right?
Right.
But you're absolutely right. If you just have that ability to just take an exhale, right? Then things are able to come to you. And I don't even know what to call that. You know, a lot of people call it, you know, mindset or the law of attraction, but I don't even like those words. I'm just like, look, your perception right in the right now moment can change your right now moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's just the tools for existing. I don't love the word law of attraction anymore, because it's turned into this like manifestation magic trick. Like, let's see if I can manifest this and this and this. And that, to me, is, I think, is an unhealthy use of the tool. I just look at it as, you know, what we're trying to do is nobody taught us the tools that we have that are at our disposal.
Right.
We sort of got those taken away.
Yeah.
So we're just educating people on, this is just a tool. This is a tool that you can use, you know. And the other part of it is, I tell people all the time, I tell this to my kids, you know, I used to be really bad at this until my daughter one day was really mad about something. And she said, Mom, I just want to be mad. And I said, you know what? It's okay to feel your emotions too. Like, you need to do that just as much as you need to take the breath. Taking the breath and stopping does not mean shoving your emotions down. And that's a very important distinction, because if you start shoving your emotions down, you're just going to get sick as well.
Yeah. And thank you for that, because so many people are trying to be a Buddha 24/7. And I'm like, look, you can't jump over it, because if you jump over it, it doesn't actually go away.
Yeah.
You know, it goes down there and collects with all the other pieces you've jumped over, and then they come out as a roaring problem, right?
Either in health or some sort of side reaction. So, you know, these are all important pieces to how to be human. Humaning is hard. Yeah. And nobody taught us how to human. No. And so these are little tools that we can use to human to make our human experience a little bit easier to move through.
Yeah. So here's a question that I get asked all the time. I'm going to ask it of you, right? Because I know you have an answer, because I love it.
Maybe.
Do I have to believe in the healing in order for it to be effective? And I'm using the word healing lightly here, because legally we don't heal anything. Right.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, I'm going to give you my answer, and then I'm going to give you this, because there's two different ways you can look at this.
Okay.
Some people say no. Some people say nope. Don't need to believe, and that's possible. I don't necessarily believe that, because I see we are so good as humans as building up resistance to things.
Yes.
That it really is a powerful energetic force field, if you will. Okay. So if you're I do know that I've seen people receive prayers, and prayers are slightly different than energy healing, but they are part of energy healing. But I've seen people that receive healing or energy at a distance who were indifferent. I've seen people that were radically against it, and I've seen people that were radically open to it. And I would say, in my personal experience, the people that are radically against it receive less of a benefit. And so that's just my personal opinion. Many people will say, no, I can heal from afar, and they don't have to even believe it. That's possible. But I do think the part of that to me that doesn't make sense in everything that I've explored in terms of, how our brains work, how consciousness works, all those different pieces of the puzzle, is that if you're in resistance, you are putting up an energy field.
Yes. And
in that, and so it makes it harder for this kind of the resonance to work together. Like the thing about the law of attraction, like attracts like, right? The energy wants to flow. It wants to be in harmony together. If it keeps bashing up against the wall, it'll reject and find someplace else to go. Yeah. That's the way I understand it. But,
yeah,
I think the other big question everybody says to me, and why I believe that, is because everybody says, well, if energy healing works, why hasn't energy healers healed the whole planet?
Yeah.
Why haven't they made everything perfect? I mean, it's a legitimate question, right? And that's why I say, well, because we have this push and pull. We have this resistance going on, and it can only go so far. That's why we have to, that's why we want so many people getting open to the possibility that we're all connected, and that if we simply operate from a space of heart connected, centered love, the world's going to get better. If more and more people do that, more and more the energy is going to flow.
Yeah. I often have people come to me and they go, oh, Loretta, I send love and light all over the planet all the time, blah, 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 blah. And I go, but what you don't understand is that you are kind of imposing that. You're assuming that's what they need or want. Right. Maybe they don't need that. And there's this thing where you're right, resistance. If I'm resisting, and if I don't want you to send love and light to me and you keep doing it, I'm going to get stronger in the resistance of that.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. So we need to be get your ego out of the way and just be sensitive.
Exactly.
Just pay attention.
And that's a really important part. This, it's a very important piece of this idea that they call it the savior complex. Where, oh, I just want to help people, but what is your motivation for helping people? Is it that you feel better about yourself? And it's so deep. I mean, oh my God, Loretta, you and I could go on for because
this is a big one.
The nuances. My kitty is just obsessed with you. She just wants to be.
I made the mistake of saying hi to your kitty earlier, and
she just wants to hang out. She's here. So the layers of all this work is why I'm doing these shows.
Yeah,
because it's not just, oh, meditate and a Mercedes will fly out of your ass. And wear this crystal and I've got a protection. Like it's so there's no depth and nuance and understanding to the why we do the things that we do to create the environment that we want. So I'm trying to do little incremental series that give people I don't want to overwhelm them, but to give them the information on a certain subject so that they can take that. And then, that's why I'm doing the Galileo Project now. The Galileo Project really addresses what is the nature of reality? What is consciousness?
Yeah.
What are superhuman abilities? How can we incorporate these things into our lives? And so it's more on that level. But hopefully, if people start to begin to look at my body of work, I started with the bleep and the tipping sacred cows, which is really about how we think, right? How do you think? How do you perceive reality? And I just kind of went from there.
I love what you're saying so much. And you're right. Like, I could talk a lot about this. Like, I love it so much. And I also love the fact that you're breaking this down into very digestible, understandable things. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this like I have 85 things I could say from what you just said, but I want to direct people back to your 5-part docuseries, Energy, the Ultimate Healer, because there are so many misunderstandings about what energy healers do. What is it we do? And no, we don't heal you. We don't fix you, right? Like people come in and they think you're just gonna wave your hand and blah blah, and sometimes that does happen, but only because it's the right time in space and they're in the right place to facilitate their own healing is really what that is, right?
There's if people want to look at the woman, I think it's episode 3, the woman who regenerated her liver made a very important point that was so important that I wanted to say it here. You probably need to wrap up. This is important. She talks about 3D time.
Yeah.
And that she had needed 5 months to heal her liver. And what she explains is the people have to understand that we are a body. We are made up of a certain type of mass. This is 3D time, what we're existing in. And so this notion that I can snap my fingers and pop a new liver out of my butt is ridiculous sometimes. You have to sometimes consider the 3D time that we exist in. And It was I loved when she said that, because that took away this excuse. Well, it should just happen magically, instantly. Maybe it will, but it also sometimes your finger does, when you get a cut, your finger takes a couple of weeks to heal.
Yes, that's right. It's absolutely right. So where do people find your docuseries? And I don't know, I think we have a minute or so left. And that's crazy. Last comments.
Okay. So
that's insane.
The easiest place for people to find the series is to go to betsychassis.net, and I linked to it right from my website. There is also, if you go to YouTube and you go to Bliss Up Now, it's there. And my last comment is that I always tell people my favorite quote in the world is by Jack Kerouac. And he says, if you want the secret to life, here it is. Be in love with your life, every detail of it. And so if people want to just contemplate what that means for them and how they can act on that in their life, it will radically change their experience.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much. We barely scratched the surface. And for those of you that follow me, I'll put links to this on my Facebook page and so forth and so on. And Betsy Chassis, from my heart to yours, so much love. And I can't wait for your Galileo project. I'm excited about that. And I know we got to go. So everybody have a great, great week. Stay in the light and send light and love to yourself.
Yes. Start with you.
If you can handle